All right, I'm going to solve all these review problems to help you out. So here we go. So the first one, you can tell there's nothing really done inside the parentheses, so there's no change to the x's. So we would just rewrite the x's. So same. Now the y coordinate is definitely changed, so we have to multiply it by 3 and then we add 1. So if we do that, we're going to get negative 23 for the first one, and then we would get negative 2, and then we get 1, and then we get 1 times 3, so let's see, so that would be 4. Is that right? Wait a second. Oh yeah, I got rid of my, oops, hold on a second. I messed up my plus sign so I couldn't see. Alright, so this one's 1, and then 1 times 3 plus 1, so that's 4. And then 8 times 3 is 24 plus 1, so 25. Okay, and then you just plot your points. And this part I'm just going to sort of do a sketch because I know you guys know how to plot points, so it will probably just take me too much time, but it basically kind of looks like this, more or less. Okay. All right, the next one, inside the parentheses, we have the x plus 2, and you remember it's, things are kind of opposites when they're inside the parentheses. So this one is shifted to the left 2 units, so that means we're going to be subtracting 2 from each of the x coordinates. So this one would be negative 2 minus 2, so that would be negative 4, negative 1 minus 2, so that would be negative 3. 0 minus 2, so that would be minus 2. 1 minus 2, so that would be negative 1. 2 minus 2, so that would be 0. And then the only change to the y's are it's reflected over the x-axis, so the y coordinates are the opposites. So instead of negative 8, it's 8. Instead of negative 1, it's 1. Instead of 0, it's actually still 0. And instead of 1, it's negative 1, and instead of 8, it's negative 8. Okay, and then you just plot those points, and again, I think you're all, great at plotting points. So more or less, I'm not going to worry about the total details here, so it's going to look like this. It actually goes through 0, negative 8, so I guess I could do that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so kind of like that. All right, actually I don't like that very much. So it kind of looks like, yeah, kind of like that. Okay, so again, I know you know how to plot points, so I'm not even worried about that. All right, next one. Don't have to worry too much about this one. You don't have one like this necessarily on the sled, but one way you could do this is you could actually multiply this out. So if you do negative 5 cubed, it's negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. So it turns out to be negative 125. And then it's x cubed, and then minus 2. And then you can tell there's nothing really inside the parentheses. So in that case, it's mainly a change to the y coordinates. So you could write the x coordinates the same, and then you can multiply each of the y coordinates by negative 125, and then subtract 2. So we have some pretty big y coordinates. So this first one would be 998, then 123, then negative 2, negative 127, and negative 1002. Okay, so that's one way to do it. The other way to do it I mentioned is you could divide each of these x coordinates by negative 5, and that would also do the trick. It would horizontally compress it. That's actually what this graph looks like. But let me just kind of do a rough sketch. It has 0, -2, so it would be like, again, super rough. Just kind of like that. It's a horizontal compression. Okay. All right, next one. This type is important. You want to be able to figure out how to write the equation from the parent graph and make the proper adjustments. So if it's reflected over the x-axis, what we would do is we would just put a little negative sign on the outside of the parentheses. And then if it's shifted right 2 units, then we'd have to do x minus 2 and then cubed. If it's a vertical stretch of 4, that means there's a 4 on the outside of the parentheses. If it's shifted right, it's x minus 3, and then cubed still, and then plus 4 because of the up 4. Reflected over the y-axis means that it's kind of like a horizontal shift, a horizontal movement. So the negative sign has to be on the inside of the parentheses. So -x, and then it would be cubed, and then it's shifted down 1 unit, so -1 at the end. Okay, now we get into the graphing when you have the zeros. So you just make yourself a little graph, and then if the zeros are -1, that means you put a little dot at -1, and then you have another 0 at 5, and then this has a multiplicity of 2, so that means that when you approach the 0, it's actually going to bounce off. That's what happens when the multiplicity is even. So you start a little bit to the left of this 0, you just kind of start there. You start going smooth, and when you hit this one, you're like, okay, wait, that's a multiplicity of 2, so it has to bounce off and then go back up. Okay, this other one has 3 zeros, so we just put a dot at each of those, so 4, 5, 6, 7, so there's that one. Then we've got -2 right there, then 0. And this one, you just start to the left of the 0 that's farthest to the left, and you just start going up through the zeros. Just nice, smooth curve. All right. Of course, your graphs vary, so it's possible that somebody could have started from above, and they could have went, okay, I'm going to start from above and go like this, and they could also be correct. Okay, so it could be the green or it could be the red. Mainly, it just needs to have a smooth curve going through those zeros. All right, so now we get into the calculator, work here and analysis. So when I did this one, I plugged in the calculator. I just did zoom 6 just to give a normal viewing window. I say normal, it's just -10 to 10, a standard viewing window is what it's called. So graph kind of looks like, kind of like that. It's not super dramatic as far as where the maximum and the minimum are, but this is pretty much where the maximum is, more or less. It's more like there and there. So when you go to calculate it, well, let's do the end behavior first. So as x approaches positive infinity, we're talking, seeing what's happening to the y values. So they're getting bigger, so we say y approaches infinity. As x approaches negative infinity, we're talking here, so that means the y values are getting smaller, so that's negative infinity. The relative max and min, this is what we need to do next. So we calculate those. So when I calculated that, I got, see what I got. I got for the maximum, it was 0.33, and then for the y value, it was -1.85. So hopefully at this point we're okay at calculating those, with the calculator. And then the minimum, again, is going to be like right here. And so we do second calculate. You try to, you move your blinking dot a little bit to the left of the minimum, a little bit to the right of the minimum, have it calculate. This one turned out to be about, let's see, it was about, more or less, it was like 1, -2. Some people got 0.99 for that, so you can say it was probably shooting for 1, -2. The 0, let me just make sure that actually turns out to be 2. So, 1 sec. Yeah, so that turns out to be 2, so the 0 is x equals 2. And then as far as the increasing and decreasing, what happens is it's increasing this whole time until it gets to that maximum. So it's increasing all the way from -infinity until it gets to this x coordinate of the maximum. So it's 0.33. And then it starts increasing again when it gets to this minimum, the x coordinate of the minimum. So that is 1, positive infinity. Then it's decreasing just during this little interval in the middle, and that's between the x coordinates of 0.33 all the way to 1. So remember, we can write our intervals like this. This is considered interval notation, or if you like this, you can write them as compound inequalities, if you like that better. Okay? I think I got everything on that one. And then similarly for the next one, let me graph that one. I haven't actually graphed that one yet. So x cubed minus 4x squared minus x minus 30. Okay, so when I do the zoom 6 on this one, I'm not super thrilled probably with the graph. It looks not great. So I changed my window. I changed the y maximum and minimum. So I changed the y minimum to be -50. And then I changed the y maximum to be 50. So -50 to 50. And then let's see if the graph looks a little bit better. So then the graph kind of looks like this on my screen. And I think that's a little bit easier to see that that would be the maximum and that would be the minimum. So now I'm going to calculate those. So second calculate maximum, a little bit to the left, enter, a little bit to the right, enter. Okay, so it looks like the maximum I got was -0.12, and then the y coordinate was -29.90, round it to the 100th place, so 4. Now I'm going to do the relative minimum. So got, and this, I thought these answers were slightly different than what the other teacher had written for these. So the relative minimum, I got 2.79, and then 42.21. Okay. All right. So let's see. Increasing interval, that would be from here to here, that part. Actually, I'll do that in green. So from there to there. So that would be, it would be increasing the whole time from -infinity to whatever that x coordinate is, which the maximum is -0.12. And then it's also increasing from right there all the way up. So that x coordinate is 2.79, and that's all the way to infinity. And then it's decreasing right in the middle there, this part. And so that's just between these two x coordinates. So that would be between -0.12 and then to 2.79. The zeros, let's see what we get for the zeros. Okay, so left bound. Okay, then move it right bound. Okay, it looks like this would be 5.4 2, 7. So remember, if you're not able to do the calculator stuff, hopefully you have seen me before now, but never too late. So describe the end behavior as x approaches infinity. That would be positive infinity because it's going up there. And then as x approaches negative infinity, that would be negative infinity. All right, so we got everything on that. All right, next one. Okay, we're just adding and subtracting here, so probably don't need to rewrite this. We're just going to look for the highest power, so it would be that one. So that would be negative 3x to the 5th. And then let's look for the next one. So then the next one would be that one, so 7x to the 4th. Looks like the next would be that, so that would be negative 2x to the 3rd. Next is squared, so 3x squared minus 3x squared, so there wouldn't be any more x squared. 4x, so plus 4x. And then we have negative 2 plus 2, so that would also cancel out. So I would say this would be the best answer. Make sure that's good. All right, so next one, we've got to make sure that we distribute the negative sign. So that would distribute to everything to the right of the negative sign. So I usually write this one out. So 7x squared plus 3x minus 1 minus 2x to the 4th minus 7x squared. Then this would be plus 3x and then plus 4. All right, so now we're going to look for the highest power we can see, which would be that one. So that would be negative 2x to the 4th. Let's see, next it would be the squareds. So 7x squared minus 7x squared, which would cancel out. And then we got the 3x and the 3x, so that would be 6x. And then we got negative 1 plus 4, so that would be plus 3. All right, next one. So this isn't necessarily any harder, it's just a little longer. So let's see, do we want to rewrite that? Maybe. Let's see, I think I probably will, if it lets me. Yeah, okay, it's not really letting me. Booger. Okay, there we go. Okay, see if I can write it neat enough so I don't mess up. Come on. Oof, it's causing troubles. Okay, hopefully I can write small enough to get it all in. Okay, so this is where it starts switching. So we'll write minus 2x to the 4th, and then minus 8x cubed, and then that would be minus 6x. And then that's a plus 24. All right, so then we do our best to make sure we combine everything. So the first term is 3x to the 5th. That's that one. Didn't have anything to combine it with. Now I'm going to look for some x to the 4ths. So I got this one. There's 1 and minus 2. So 1 minus 2 is minus 1x to the 4th. Next, we're going to look for x cubed. So I have minus 2x cubed, another minus 2x cubed, that's minus 4x cubed. Now minus 8, so that makes minus 12x cubed. All right, next are the squareds. Do I see any of those? I do not see any squareds. Okay, so then I'm going to go to the next one, which would be x's. So that would be 1x plus 1x, that's 2x, minus 6, so that's minus 4x. Now I'm going to look for numbers. Okay, just numbers. They're constants, they're called in math. So minus 10, minus 14, that makes minus 24. Then we're adding 24, so those cancel out. So there won't be any constants. So then that's your best answer. All right, so now we get into multiplying. That's our last learning target. So we're going to take the x and we're distributing that through. So that would be 3x cubed. And remember, you're adding the exponents when you're multiplying. So then we're going to do minus 2x squared, and then minus x. And now we're going to take the 5 and multiply that through all three terms. So that would be 15x squared. And then 5 times negative 2x, that would be negative 10x. And then 5 times negative 1, so that would be minus 5. And then we're going to just combine those like terms. So we've got 3x to the third, or 3x cubed, we say. And then plus 13x squared. And then we got minus 11x, and then minus 5. And our last one. So this one, we've got cubed. So you just have to remember to rewrite this. So we're going to do x plus 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 2. Okay, so we need to make sure to multiply all these together. You got to do 2 at a time. So I prefer to do these two first, just because then we'll have a binomial times a trinomial. So I multiply these together, so we're just distributing. So we're going to do x times x, so that's going to be x squared. Then we're going to do x times 2, so that would be 2x. Then we're going to distribute the 2 through each of the terms, so that would be 2x. And then we're going to multiply the 2 times the 2, so that would be 4. So I would simplify that a little bit before I distribute the x plus 2 through. So it'd be x squared, combine those, so that'd be plus 4x, and then plus 4. And you want to make sure you still multiply this x plus 2. So we bring that down, so we have x plus 2 multiplied by the x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then we're going to do just like we did on the last problem. We're going to make sure and multiply the x all the way through. So the first one, it'd be x cubed, and then x times 4x, so that would be 4x squared. And then x times 4, that would be 4x. And then now we're going to take the 2 and multiply that one through all the terms. So 2 times x squared, so that would be 2x squared. 2 times 4x, so that would be 8x. And then 2 times 4, that would be plus 8. And then we want to just combine those like terms. So our final answer, it would be x cubed plus 6x squared plus 12x, and then plus 8. Make sure that's all good. Yep. So that's good. So really, if you know how to solve those problems, you should be in great shape. Good luck.